Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I am going to invite, there is no pressure. It is the morning, and we are usually running a slideshow. But if folks want to come on camera, they're super welcome to. Hi, Sarah. Because I don't have slides. This is going to be really informal and conversational. Um, my goal this morning is to preview our Advocacy Day in March, share a little bit more about why we're doing it, what it is, give folks opportunity to ask questions, talk logistics. We will have a more formal Advocacy Day training in March before the event, but I know folks are trying to plan out their calendars for the spring now. So we wanted to give this opportunity to really talk about what Advocacy Day is and what your role in it can be. So feel free to put a little hello in the chat and let us know where you're coming from. We'd love to see where folks are coming from all over the state. And I'll go ahead and start diving in. And I apologize, I'm coming from another presentation that we just did with the National Association of Women Business Owners. So I'm in business mindset right now, and I'm going to transition, although hopefully we've got some business friends on the call today too. All right. So our Advocacy Day is going to be on Wednesday, March 12th. We have confirmed it is a session day. So we're really excited. The legislators should all be in town. And hopefully they will all be turning out. I'm going to copy and paste the registration link here into the chat for everybody. Oh, yay, so many friends' names in here. Awesome. And it's a bit of an all-day event. So we are currently firming up the agenda, but we will have programming that includes speakers from legislative leadership. We will have folks from our finance committee in the House and the Senate. We will have folks from the governor's administration on the agenda as well. So we'll start our day with breakfast in the morning, and then we'll go into programming there at the State House. And in the afternoon, we are going to be reserving one-on-one legislative meetings for folks all over the state. So let me pull up. Thanks everybody for introducing yourself as we get geared up here. But we are going to be really focusing on one more fun link in the chat for you. Our public policy agenda that Groundwork put together and released in our driving change report this fall. So you probably, I think a lot of you were part of our release on that in November. Actually, Jacob, do you mind throwing that link in the chat? I have too many tabs open right now. On page 5 of that report, you'll see our public policy agenda, which covers both early learning opportunities as well as maternal and young child health supports and investments. So we've got 6 major policy asks in there, and we are going to be talking about all of those with legislators on Advocacy Day. So we really want folks to come from every corner of the state. We're going to be trying to meet with legislators in key positions as well as geographically diverse. And so we really want to have folks from everywhere. We've already started hearing from some folks about their transit and coming down in a bit of a caravan from different corners of the state. So if you're worried at all about travel, shoot me an email and we are happy to try to connect you with other folks that we know that are coming down from your area. Throw my email in the chat. I think everybody probably has it because I send you guys lots of emails. But it's a really great, so we'll have on March 4th, another save the date, March 4th at 10 a.m. We're going to do a webinar training completely virtual, but we encourage all of our Advocacy Day attendees to hop on that call. That's where we will talk about logistics of where do you park, how do you get to the atrium, how do you get your check-in and get your registration that day? How do you get to the House from the Senate and all of those fun logistic details? We are also going to have on one of the upcoming morning meetings in late February, a social media training with our digital communications director, Marty Ridley. Hi, Marty. So Marty will be talking about bigger picture, how you can maximize your social media to really impact, to share your mission and the work that you're doing more broadly, but she'll also talk a little bit about what that looks like for Advocacy Day and what that means. we also would love to note that the budget is going to come out of the governor's administration on Monday, February 3rd. So our advocacy day being on March 12th is really timely. We'll know what the governor's priorities are, and we'll be in the height of the House budget preparations and hearings. So it's a really good, important time for us to be there on the square. I'm just trying to pull up our agenda. My team, feel free to pop in too if you've got other items. Sorry, I didn't have this queued up before we hopped on. Okay. So timing for the day, just as you're planning some of your travel and those fun logistics. We anticipate kicking off at 9. So for folks who are there a little bit early, we'll have breakfast set up at the State House, but we anticipate networking and breakfast to start at 9, and our programming will start at 9:30. So please be prepared if you're coming from a different corner of the state that we'll formally start the agenda at 9:30 on the 12th. And we'll spend most of the morning there in the atrium. So that will be good morning, so many folks in the chat. We will have our team present our policy priorities again to keep everybody on the same page. We will have our Legislative Childhood Champion Awards presented. We haven't yet announced who those legislators will be, but we'll be presenting those that morning, and we'll have a panel of legislators as well. So that will take us right through lunch. The one-on-one legislative meetings will happen after lunch, and Groundwork will set those up. We're working with our team is working with Sean Dunn, our contract lobbyists, to really match make. So it's really important when you register for the event that you've got your zip code in there. I think it's a required field, so it will be. But we're matchmaking, whether it's your home or your work, your zip code with legislators so that you're meeting with folks who represent your district and the work that you do. We'll have folks going in groups and we'll do everything we can to prep you with all the materials we can. In addition to our driving change report and our broader policy agenda, Troy and his team are working on really excellent fact sheets that dive a little bit more deeply into each of those topic areas. So if you're working specifically on infant mortality outcomes, or if you're working specifically on changing the FPCC eligibility, we've got fact sheets on each thing that we'll make sure that you have. We also have county specific fact sheets that will be ready by Advocacy Day that we're working on. So we'll have data that's specific to the legislators district too. So we'll have really, really great content. Obviously, we want you to talk about your programmings and the work that you do, but we'll have lots of groundwork created materials that we hope that you'll use that day. After our legislative meetings in the Rife, that will be the end of the day. So there's no reconvening back at the State House. So you can probably plan on being on Cap Square from about 9 to 4 if you do the whole day. You'll know once it gets closer exactly how many one-on-one legislative meetings you have. We usually kind of get that stuff last minute because the committee notices come out the Friday before each week, typically, sometimes even still straggling on Monday. And so sometimes things get shifted around last minute. Don't take that personally. It's just because that's the pace of things happening at the legislature. But we're happy to, be as communicative as we can and get you set up for success. I'll pause. This is a lot of info at once. Does anybody have questions at this point? Does my team have anything I've missed? Such a quiet group. Is anybody planning on coming to Advocacy Day? Do you want to share where you're from? I know we've got lots of friends from Cleveland who've already told me they're coming down. Yeah, I see some nodding. And I think we've got a good number of folks from Appalachia too. I think they were working on coordinating. They're doing an Appalachian specific lobby day too. Oh yeah, look at the chat's blown up now.
Brittany, I would just say, this is
Hey,
Kim Tice,
Kim.
Ohio
Yeah.
and I've been able to come the last few years, but we've also had a team of people, especially those on the front lines, family childcare people working in programs. And even for myself, it seems somewhat intimidating at first that you're going to share your story. But I think what we've seen every year is that you're the expert in your own work. And once they start having a conversation human to human, it really is very empowering and exciting, and people can't wait to come back. So I encourage you, if you haven't been, if you have any hesitation, reach out to anyone on this call. I know a lot of people on this call have been there. But it's a great worthwhile time.
Thanks for sharing that, Kim. And Kim is a very busy statewide director. So if it was a meaningful day for you, that's a really meaningful testimonial. So thank you for sharing that. And I can't agree more that those stories that legislators hear from folks who are in their districts doing this work day to day on the ground resonate and stick with them so much more, especially if they're far flung and they're driving home. Shannon's nodding. She was one of these legislators. You're driving home and you're thinking through your day and what stuck with you. It's those stories. It's what you did with a child that day. It's what your employees are experiencing if they can't afford childcare in their community. Those are what they'll remember. So thank you for sharing that, Kim. I also wanted to, on that note about testimonials, it's a really great time now if you're thinking through if you have client testimonials, families that you serve, even if they can't make it to Advocacy Day that day, if you can just get a brief statement from them that you could share. I know sometimes those things take a little while to dig up, but if you could get a couple of those before you come, or start thinking about who you'd like to highlight, or even if you've got multiple testimonials, you could put them on a piece of paper to leave behind from families and folks that you serve. So now's a great time to start thinking about that since we are less than 2 months away, which feels like nothing to our team, but we're meeting weekly and going to have a really great event. Um, Other things that I wanted to share. Do. So I think I've offered if folks are traveling from far, I can connect you with one another, testimonials. Oh, if you can't make it, if you've registered and you cannot make it, please let us know. 400 sounds like a lot of people, but we have had a lot of interest in this Advocacy Day, which is wonderful. And so we anticipate having a really packed room. We know it's March, weather's hopefully going to be fine by then. But if you know in advance that you can't make it, please let us know so we can free up that spot for somebody else. We've also, this is the first year we have put a registration cutoff of February 28th, just so that we have time to really, really match make everybody's zip codes with the legislators and really make sure that we have the room fill and that everybody has a great schedule of meetings that day. We want the day to be really impactful for you. I'll
Brittany, I would
pause it.
love to. Oh, so sorry, I didn't mean
Please,
to interrupt
please.
you. I would love to just add that in addition to our fact sheets, we're going to have lots of product coming out over the next few months. We have a childcare poll that was in the field in December of 2024, which we have a webinar in a few weeks that I'll put in the link in the chat. That data is going to come out. Our early childhood dashboard is going to come out in February of 2025 as well. So we'll have lots of resources for you to look at and start to think about how does the data relate to your personal experiences, and how do you mirror those things. Just, for example, I was an early intervention provider early in my career, and there's some data points around children who are exited from early intervention due to lack of contact, and that's a data point that we're able to pull out and use to talk with policymakers. But in my experience, I worked with kids, or I had families that I worked with that, whether the service coordination had tons of kids on their caseload, and families were experiencing housing insecurity, so it was hard to contact them. So those personal experiences of a family that I worked with to pair with what we see from our data is really helpful and helps contextualize when you're just kind of throwing numbers out, or you're using data, which our policymakers want to hear, and it's important to support our ask, but also what personal stories do you have that relate to our data points. So we'll have our childcare pull out on January 28th. We'll have our dashboard published in February. So you'll have time to look at that in addition to the fact sheets and think, what stories do I have that bring this data point to life?
Thank you, Troy. I cannot believe I didn't mention the dashboard. Thank you so much. The poll as well, but I'm sorry I didn't mention the dashboard earlier when I was talking about our resources, Troy. Thanks for catching that. Excellent. Does anyone else have questions about Advocacy Day? I know we've got almost 70 folks on here, and some folks had to hop on late, so I'll just reiterate the flow of the day. The registration link is in the chat. Please register by February 28th. Advocacy Day is an all-day event on Wednesday, March 12th. It is a session day in both chambers. We expect a lot of legislators to be there. Michelle, great question. When registering, is it best to put your home address in the contact info and then organization? Oh, the question just disappeared. An organization address and employer info. That would be great. If we can have both, that will really help us make sure that we hit as many legislators as possible. Because your home and your work might just even if it's the same zip code, the +4 could be different. The districts are just so all over the place that your home and work could be different districts, even if they're close to one another. So thanks for asking that, Michelle. Yes, the more addresses, the better. We will kick off in the morning, 9 a.m., registration and breakfast and programming in the atrium, legislative awards, legislators there, DCY, Department of Children and Youth leadership will be there as well. We're confirming all the times of all of our speakers and we'll get a detailed agenda out to you closer to the event. Training is March 4th. It is a webinar at 10 a.m. that our team will do. We will record that too in case that does not work for some folks, especially our educators who we know are busy with children at that time of day. We'll definitely make sure that's recorded for folks so they can watch it after the fact if necessary. And then we'll have lunch on site as well. And the afternoon will be dedicated to those individual meetings that our team will set up for you to have with legislators. Anything else from my team or others on the call about Advocacy Day? Please register as soon as you can so we can make sure we're as geographically diverse and as policy diverse as we can be as we're bringing all of our advocacy agenda to our stakeholders at the State House. Okay, I'll put in a little plug for some more morning meetings that are coming up. We're really excited. Next week, the 23rd, we're going to have Julie Stone, who is running the Ohio Head Start Association. So we're really pumped to have her. And I don't know if I've told Julie this recently, but we have at least 2 staff members that joined this year who have deep, Marty's smiling because she's one of them. And then Melissa, who's actually in Georgia right now at a family engagement conference with the Alliance for Early Success. But we have 2 staff members right now who are fantastic, who came out of family leadership development programming that Head Start runs. So can't wait to have you, Julie. Is there anything that you'd like to preview for next week that folks should be ready for?
No, I'm just putting together a brief overview of Head Start to kind of understand kind of what sets it apart, and then share some of the things that we're looking at in terms of our state advocacy in the upcoming budget.
Thank you. We can't wait to have you.
Thanks.
And then we also have coming up February 13th, we have Amy Riegel, who's the CEO of Ohio, the Coalition on Homelessness and Housing in Ohio. She's going to talk about their statewide policy work and kind of contextualize some programming that our friends at First Year Cleveland are doing related to housing for pregnant moms. So we're really excited to have kind of that statewide policy perspective with a local program applicability around housing as an intervention, especially coming off of Troy. I did not stage this, but Troy's comment that he had about working with a family that was facing housing insecurity. We just know from our roadshow that's a topic that comes up in every single community around the state. Later in February, I mentioned we'll have Marty doing a social media training. And on February 20th, we're going to have Becky Carroll from the Health Policy Institute of Ohio. They released a study in the fall on ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And Becky's going to share the findings of that study and talk about childhood trauma prevention. So those are some of our upcoming meetings. If you're on today and you would like to highlight the work that your organization has done, just shoot me an email and I'm happy to see what we can do to try to get you on the calendar. But let me know if you'd like to do a morning meeting. Sarah over here did a great one last week with Advocates for Ohio's Future. So we really appreciate our partners and hope that this has been a fruitful space for folks to network and learn from one another's work. Will Marty be working with the fellows? Oh, Joy, what a great question. I think she will be. I'm pretty sure Marty will be working with the fellows. We're still, Troy's still finalizing our curriculum for the 2025 fellowship. But Troy, would you like to say anything else about comms training that Marty might be doing or anyone else on our team?
Yeah, if you're in our fellowship class like Joy, a part of our fellowship is learning how to take your personal stories and translate them into conversations with policymakers. And we're really excited this year because we've taken a new approach and have a different version of a workshop we've been offering for several years with lore storytelling to learn how to have those conversations and tell those stories in a conversation. It's one thing to be able to stand on a stage and tell your story and hit it home, but how do you have a dialogue with a policymaker who's asking you questions, or you don't get to hit all your points in your narrative? How do you pull those things out? And we'll continue working with our team to support our fellows on how to engage in different types of advocacy, through social media, how to elevate your voice in multiple different ways. So we're really excited to see that continue through the rest of the semester. And if you're interested in joining our next cohort, applications open on January 28th, and they'll be open until March 14th. So you'll get a reminder at Advocacy Day on March 12th that applications will close that week. And then the fellowship starts in August of 2025, which will come before you know it.
And in case you notice, yes, that means Troy is running the poll webinar and the application opening up for the fellowship on the 28th. It'll be a big day for Groundwork. Lots of good activity. We do have a few minutes left. Is there anyone else who's running any advocacy days this spring or any other events that you'd like to plug with the group while we have one another?
I would say that Troy and I and a couple others on this call are participating in the NAEYC Public Policy Forum. And I think, as well as we do, that it really needs a partnership between federal and state funding and federal and state advocacy. And with a lot of changes in the administration, that'll be really important. So I think Troy and I will be able to bring back, any lessons learned and what we've heard from there to add to the conversation for the state. If you're interested, you can go to NAYC's website. My understanding is it's filling up, but there's still a few spaces left. So
thanks,
I
Kim.
just dropped the link in the chat, Kim, and thank you for highlighting that. Public policy forums actually how I got involved in advocacy. It was my first kind of experience in that world and has led me to being here today. So I definitely encourage anyone who is considering or looking for opportunities to develop skills. That's a great one, especially with the change of a federal administration. It's a good opportunity to go and learn from our national partners.
Thanks so much, Kim. Our team is also attending, this is another federal one, but in February, the 12th through the 15th, the First 5 Years Fund is hosting a home visiting summit. So Dominique Johnson, who's our newest policy associate that just joined the team a week ago, will be there and meeting with Ohio's congressional delegation about the importance of home visiting. And also, I'm sure, talking about the importance of defending Medicaid. Hi, Dustin. Hop in.
How you doing? So
Good,
just a
how are
heads
you?
up, I put this in the chat. It's not necessarily for this group, as our attendee list is primarily going to be our board members, just to try to really get them interested in advocacy. We have a lot of new board members across the state of Ohio at the AHA, American Heart Association, sorry. And so our lobby day is March 18. So I really like this, constant touches week after week with these legislators. So hopefully we'll be able to find something that they can gravitate towards that we all agree with. It's looking limited, but I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic. We'll put it that way.
That's awesome. Thank you, Dustin.
Yeah, no problem. Looking forward to it.
I think I saw Haley, our friend from United Way of Greater Cincinnati, put in the chat. United Way of Greater Cincy has an Indiana and Kentucky Advocacy Day coming up. And 211 Advocacy Day on March 19th. So the day after Dustin's Advocacy Day on the 19th, there will be a 211 Advocacy Day here in Ohio. Sarah, did you want to plug, not to put you on the spot, your Economic Mobility Advocacy Day again? I just feel like that one's very relevant to a lot of folks on this call.
Yeah, happy to. We're hosting an Economic Mobility Advocacy Day on Wednesday, March 19th. And I think it ties into a lot of like Ohio 211 is also related to being able to connect to services in your community and access services for economic mobility. Registration link coming soon, and would love to see you all there.
Thanks, Sarah. I'll put in another plug that there is a day, it's to be determined. I think currently it's March 18th, but they're confirming space logistics. The Ohio Lead-Free Kids Association is doing their advocacy day. It will be in March. They're looking at the 18th, but registration for that will come out soon as well. Awesome. Any more questions or events from folks? Great. Well, Please register for March 12th if you haven't yet. If you have any other questions you didn't want to ask to the full group, feel free to email me, Troy, Marty, anybody in our team is happy to help you. Will all of these be sent out in your newsletter as well? We can absolutely plug these in our newsletter. Yeah. Marty's nodding. She's the newsletter queen. So we'll make sure we get those links to the registration pages as they come live. And feel free to cross promote our advocacy day to your folks in your newsletters and on your social media as well. Marty's going to do a really beautiful social media content that I think is really easy to repost. So feel free to use that content too. Thank you, everybody. I'm looking forward to seeing folks in person. I like these morning meetings, but I love seeing you in person so much. So thanks for the time this morning. I hope the 12th works out well with your calendars. And just let me know if you have any questions or trouble scheduling logistics, hotels, anything like that in the meantime. All right. Have a great morning, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.